Live from KSAT 12, the 6 o'clock news starts right now.
A final resting place restored. A headstone that was stolen from a gravesite in Elmendorf, now back where it belongs.
We first told you about this theft yesterday right here on the news at 6 and how a family was desperate to get that grave marker back. As Katrina Weber tells us, those relatives, they're relieved that it has returned, but they're anxious now for the thief to be caught.
Frame for one, it's damaged from here. It's pulled out. The headstone, this right here, is scratched and it's chipped.
A headstone left a bit banged up still is helping to repair Ann Martinez's broken heart. She and her family found out a week ago that the marble marker on her late nephew's grave had been stolen. Today, they learned it had been found.
It's the grave we know. It's the grave we come to visit. It's not a missing piece there.
Elmendorf police said Martinez a message telling her they'd recovered the headstone a couple miles away from the city cemetery. A passerby noticed it among the freshly mowed grass near Loop 1604.
Why did they just leave it off on the side of the road? Why couldn't they just leave it alone in the first place?
None of it makes sense to Martinez, although she believes this and ongoing vandalism at the gravesite are somehow tied to the murder of her nephew, Larry Alvarez Perez, in December of 2020. She says the theft brought her family even more pain. While the family is grateful to have this headstone back, there is still one pressing question: who stole it? Police so far don't have any answers. They told me the thief left no fingerprints.
It's a heavy item. Somebody had to have picked it up. I don't think they really picked it up with gloves.
Somehow, Martinez hopes police will find the criminals. Her family will try to undo the damage that was done.
My nephew and my son are going to work on it.
Both to the headstone and themselves. Katrina Weber, KSAT 12 News.
For these families standing here, they were the last families standing nearly 2 years ago.
The last family standing. A settlement's been reached with the city of Uvalde and families of 19 Robb Elementary shooting victims. On Friday, it will be 2 years since that horrific day.
Our Avery Everett was there as these families and that attorney announced the settlement and a new lawsuit directed at the state of Texas.
Those families say they'll never forget what happened to those 19 students and 2 teachers on May 24th of 2022. But they hope this new settlement and new lawsuit will help them find more ways to move forward. Let's first break down that settlement reached between the 19 families and the city of Uvalde. The agreement lists out policy changes for the Uvalde Police Department to increase standards and training. It also lists a number of commitments from the city to help community-wide healing. The city has also agreed to pay these families $2 million from its insurance coverage. But these families say they care about change, not compensation. That's why they filed 92 lawsuits against individual Texas Department of Public Safety officers and several Uvalde CISD members. This isn't the first lawsuit after this shooting, but these families still hope the settlement and this lawsuit make lasting impacts.
Just because we settled doesn't mean we're going to stop.
It's an uphill battle, and we're going to keep on going.
Friday marks 2 years since that shooting first happened. Our KSAT 12 team will be out here on Friday in Uvalde covering the stories of this community and remembering those 21 lives lost. If you want to read more about the commitments this city has made to these families, you can head on over to KSAT.com. Avery Everett, KSAT 12 News.
2 years after that tragic day, the city's still reeling. So are the victims and their families. Arnolfo Arnie Reyes, a teacher at Robb Elementary, and faced the gunman in his classroom. He was shot 3 times. In his first interview with KSAT, he talks to me about having his kids hide behind a table as the sounds of gunfire got closer to his classroom.
When you think back to that day, what goes through your mind?
Just all the tragedy that happened in so little time. Everything that it has affected my community. And I mean, like 3 minutes, in the first 3 minutes, I mean, has scarred my community so much. And I don't know how long that's gonna last, but I mean, it's affected my community really, really bad.
Friday will be a tough day for so many people. You can see my entire interview with Arnie online. It's a Spreester session. And on Friday, we continue this conversation. Uvalde 2 years later. I'll be live and have reports from Uvalde at 5, 6, and 10.
To the courtroom now, and today the daughter of a man on trial for the death of his girlfriend's 5-year-old son took the stand and told the court that she was afraid of her father and that she witnessed abuse. Daniel Garcia is on trial, accused for the death of Dominic Aguilar Acevedo. The little boy's body was found in Colorado in 2021, but investigators believe he was killed here in San Antonio. The boy's mother, Nicole Aguilar, is also accused in this case. Daniel Garcia's now 7-year-old daughter was with him at the time of Dominic's death. We could not record that little girl's testimony, but here are some of the questions she was asked and her answers. She was asked, "Are you afraid of your dad?" She said yes. She was also asked, "Did Nicole do anything wrong?" She said no. And "Did your dad hit Dominic?" And she said yes. Testimony will continue tomorrow afternoon around 1:30 p.m. You can watch this trial live on KSAT.com, the KSAT Plus app, and the KSAT YouTube channel.
Do horse-drawn carriages need to hoof it out of downtown San Antonio or even out of the entire city?
It is a question city leaders are finally considering nearly a year and a half after it was first proposed. The discussion starts tonight at a Transportation Advisory Board meeting, and that's where we find our Garrett Berger. So Garrett, how is that discussion going so far?
Well, so far, from what we heard in the meeting, it seems favorable to the operators, at least from what the advisory board members had been saying. However, we're understanding now that city council members did not actually ask that it be sent to the advisory board. Instead, it sounded like this ended up on the agenda at the urging of the industry and its supporters. Now, the lit-up horse-drawn carriages have been a staple for years in downtown San Antonio, which, as we all know, is supremely tourist-heavy. But band supporters point to concerns about animal welfare and general safety on the crowded downtown streets. 2 council members put forward the idea of phasing out the carriages back in November of 22. Though the original proposal was a full ban, one of the original sponsors has since suggested relocating them out of downtown could be enough. Carriage operators have previously said the city hasn't tried to engage them yet, and though it now sounds like at least one councilman has reached out. But tonight is their opportunity to come out on public record and talk about what kind of compromises they'd be willing to make. Now, as its name implies, the Transportation Advisory Board just provides advice on different types of city licensed transportation, such as cabs, or in this case, the horse-drawn carriages. But it doesn't call the shots on what ends up happening with the carriages. That will be up to city council members. Now, the next stop after tonight is the City Council's Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. But that meeting's not likely to happen until at least next month. And then, as far as when it could make it in front of the entire City Council for an actual vote, we don't know, or if it ever will. Live at police headquarters, I'm Garrett Berger, KSAT 12 News.
All right, Garrett, thank you. Hot and definitely humid out there. Is that contributing to these storm chances we have to talk about, Adam?
Well, I really wish it was for us and making it better storm chances, but around here we've got a big cap on our atmosphere, kind of like a lid screwed on top of it, and you can break through it with the right conditions. I just don't think those conditions will be making it here. Notice our heat continues, still very summer-like. 97 Thursday, Friday, up near 100 this weekend, and we do think we'll have our first 100-degree day this year on Sunday. That would tie the record for the day. Then we trim off a few degrees into the early and middle part of next week because a weak cool front's going to move through then. Taking a look at authority radar, nothing locally, a lot of clouds moving overhead from decaying thunderstorms off to the west. That action in Valverde County is coming to an end, but it's very lit up just on the very top of your screen. That's up near Killeen. We'll take a closer look at that activity and talk about the odds of it making it here because there is some movement southward with that. Talk about that and the high heat and the humidity. We'll get into the details in just a bit.
Thank you, Adam. Let's go to I-10 right now, I-10 and Proban to be exact. You can see a big backup there. Looks like there's an emergency vehicle off as you see the exit ramp up there. It looks like that's to 281 South and 37 South. Some sort of emergency vehicle up there. It looks like that is what is causing the standstill at that exit. Part of I-10 is moving, but if you're trying to get onto 281 South and perhaps 281 North, it looks like It is slow going, if not stopped, right now at I-10 and Proband.
What if we told you there might be a way for the body to regrow a pancreas that's been damaged? That would be life-altering for type 1 diabetes patients, and that research is being done right here in San Antonio.
Our Courtney Friedman takes us to a place where that high-tech study is happening and explains how you can participate.
Is there anything on the market like this? No. Is there anything much like this in research? Not that I know of.
That one-of-a-kind research happening right here in San Antonio could change everything for type 1 diabetes patients.
But first, let's talk about type 1 diabetes. It starts with this. Sugar, it helps fuel the body, but in order for it to travel through your body correctly, you need insulin, which is a hormone inside the pancreas, which is this little guy lit up right there. In type 1 diabetes, the pancreas produces little to no insulin, so sugar builds up in the bloodstream. It's very serious and very dangerous, and people with type 1 diabetes could end up on insulin shots or a pump for their whole life.
If someone's got type 1 diabetes right now, there's really no treatment except insulin, so we can't reverse anything.
Dr. Sherwin Schwartz is hoping he can change that. He's the senior medical consultant of the Evolution Research Group and a longtime local doctor who has spent his career bringing important research studies to San Antonio. This current trial, unheard of.
It's a national study, and there's several sites, including San Antonio, thank God, where they have a compound they're working on that will make the pancreas potentially grow its insulin cells back. And it's never been done before.
An injection that could allow people's own bodies to repair their damaged pancreas.
Would this be considered a cure if this were to work?
If it works, yes.
In the very least, a stepping stone to history. Courtney Friedman, KSAT 12 News.
Amazing. They need study participants right now. If you qualify, you have to be a type 1 diabetes patient between 18 and 60 years of age, your disease early on, and you have no other serious medical problems. You'll be compensated for your time. The number to call if you're interested, 210-934-0500. In just a few minutes, the change is now in place after KSAT captured footage of a convicted sex offender standing in a city park as investigators search for a missing woman and her son. Why was he allowed to be there on a crime scene? What's being done to stop this from happening again? Tonight at 6:30.
And coming up after the break, we are heading to the Helotes area for our next edition of Know My Neighborhood. People who live around Scenic Loop are concerned about conservation. We're going to share a preview.
But first, let's take a quick look outside with live cam meteorologist Adam Caskey tracking some storms to the north of us. How close they may get to our viewing area up next. Happening tomorrow right here on the News at 6, a new episode of Know My Neighborhood. We're taking you to the far northwest side.
We are featuring the neighborhood of the Scenic Loop, Helotes Creek Alliance. Here's a preview.
This is just a whole different way of life.
Just fell in love with it. Just its quaintness, it's rolling hills.
Everybody that shows up here goes, we had no idea you guys were out here.
It's so nice to be out here because the minute you turn on the Scenic Loop, there's a total drop in noise.
We actually formed as Scenic Loop Helotes Creek Alliance. It's just these 80 or 100 people got together and said, hey, development's coming our way. Let's see what we can do to represent ourselves to that development encroachment.
There was new traffic lights have been added, which is a good thing. It's a four-way stop with a lot of cars. Accidents are bound to happen, and you're also with several bikers, so you need to be very cautious.
We've been approached by developers ever since I can remember.
Other people may not care until it affects their water. And if you have to build these treatment plants all around San Antonio because all of their water is contaminated and it's their taxpayer dollar, then it is in their backyard and then it affects them.
We decided that you really need income to kind of sustain these type of properties.
It's unbelievable how many people stop and just admire them. And I think it's just because they're unique.
And that's kind of the beauty of Scenic Loop is you will always find something new every time you drive down this road.
Looking forward to it. And there's a lot more to the Scenic Loop Helotes Creek Alliance than you might think.
Oh yeah, this is a neighborhood unlike any that we have featured before. I mean, and you saw how beautiful and how rural it is, but it's right next to some really huge development.
It is the largest neighborhood in San Antonio, if I'm correct, in the San Antonio Neighborhood Association's
size.
In terms of size, it is the largest, and it's tomorrow at 6 o'clock, and of course we'll be out there at 5 as well.
Yeah, so will Adam Caskey. You'll be out there with us too, Adam.
Yeah, I wish I was ziplining though. That would be awesome.
That seems
That would
very
be
up
fun.
your alley.
That would be good.
Never mind, I flew an F-16 a few weeks ago. No big deal. So I guess
What are you saying?
zip lines.
No bigs.
All right.
No bigs.
Yeah. I wondered how long it would be until,
No big deal. Yeah, we're pulling negative G's and stuff, about 5 G's here and there. And I'm doing my own barrel rolls and controlling the aircraft. Whatever. Thank you, Wang Chung.
But I'm sure zip lighting's fun too.
Wang Chung, my pilot, right? Mike, you know what I'm talking about. The Texas Air National Guard. The gunfighters.
What a
it was
flex.
a good time.
What a flex.
That's right. I'm going to pull that out as often as I can. The video is on KSAT.com. Just search F-16 and you'll find it. It was for Fiesta, for Battle of Roses, the flyover. Anyway, let's get to our authority radar. And you can see the activity that is not around us. It's just farther to the north. And that's where the storms are rowdy right now, especially Killeen. Moving into Temple, you see how they're very electrified, and not only a wind threat, but also a hail threat and even a tornado threat with these thunderstorms. Again, this is north of our area and even just north of Austin, closer to Killeen and Temple. But it shows you the activity that's out there and the potential of the strong to severe storms that are building southward and drifting southward. You see in the 3D view the amount of hail suspended within the storm and dropping just northwest of Temple at this time. And there is even a tornado warning for the potential of a tornado right here in this little notch west of Temple where we have these little cylinders rotating. So that's the action that's out there off to the north of us. And this is all part of a bigger, broader system that stretches all the way up into Kentucky right now with that severe weather threat. This is along a cold front that's pushing southward, and the cold front is helping to kickstart some of these showers and thunderstorms. And the atmospheric conditions, the dynamics, the thermodynamics are there for the severe weather just north of our area. But some of the leftovers could creep into the northern hill country in the coming hours, later this evening and tonight. Here's one of our future casts that keeps that activity to the north. And I agree with that, partially because locally here in San Antonio, we're not going to get that cold front. It's not going to make it here. So we're not going to have that extra lift to break through a big cap, a lid that we have on our atmosphere. And it would take something big like that cold front to really break through it. So some of the leftover activity sticking around in parts of the northern hill country as we go through the evening and tonight. And then even tomorrow morning with that boundary stalled roughly from San Angelo to Waco and eastward, we could still have some development in and around that boundary far to the north of San Antonio and just outside most of the hill country tomorrow morning. Then tomorrow afternoon, there could be a stray pop-up shower or storm locally. We're talking a 10% chance around here, and going forward, 10 to 20% chance in the days ahead. Except for Saturday and Sunday, we have that at 0% for now. You look at the temperatures, you can see where we have rain cooled air. Dallas at 75. Meanwhile, 93 in San Antonio after high temperature of 96. Castroville at 95, Bernie at 90. But that's only part of the story. It is tropical out there with the humidity. Very, very sticky. Dew points into the 70s all across the board, and that adds to that heat index. Feels like 105 in Pleasanton. Feels like 102 in San Antonio. Cotulla, 106. Carrizo Springs, a heat index of 108. We're going to be dealing with not just the heat, but also the high humidity in the days ahead. So 77 and very sticky tomorrow morning with the low clouds. Then hazy sunshine in the afternoon, 97. But feeling like it's between 104 and 108. Actual air temperatures closer to 105 along the Rio Grande tomorrow. But Stone Oak 96, Helotes 94. That's what we have to look forward to for Know My Neighborhood tomorrow at this time. It's going to be hot and sticky out there. By the way, Sunday, we're expecting 100, and should that verify, that would tie for the record for the day.
All right, thank you, Adam.
All right, Dak Prescott has some decisions to make, or should I say, The Cowboys have some decisions to make about Dak Prescott.
Yeah, so he's entering the final year of his contract extension. Today he talked with the media up in Dallas, and they were asking him, Dak, why do you remain so patient during these contract negotiations? Coming up, Dak is going to tell you why, and some of you might not believe him. Plus, the Mavs and Timberwolves will tip off the Western Conference Finals tonight. Coming up.
I don't play for money. Never have, never cared for it, to be honest with you. Would give it up just to play this game. So I allow that to the business people to say what it's worth, what they're supposed to give a quarterback of my play.
Dallas Cowboys quarterback Dak Prescott, who's in the final year of a 4-year, $160 million deal, says he stays patient in regards to a new contract because he doesn't play for money in big board sports. All right, the Dallas Mavericks held shoot-around at the Target Center this morning ahead of Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals tonight against the Minnesota Timberwolves. And judging by the video, the Mavs are loose heading into this best-of-7 series, with the winner advancing to the NBA Finals. Dallas knocked off the top-seeded OKC Thunder in the Western semis, and now the 5th-seeded Mavs will try to beat the Timberwolves, who own the 3rd seed in the Western Conference playoffs. The Mavs got to this point in 2022, losing to the Golden State Warriors in 5 games.
Never take it for granted, like I said, and especially in the West. The West has been stacked this last couple of years, and it's insane. Anybody can win anybody, so I really appreciate being here for the second time in 3 years. It's a blessing, and we just got to keep it going.
The Timberwolves enter this series with a lot of confidence after taking the defending champion Denver Nuggets a distance in the semis and beating them in Game 7 at Ball Arena in Denver. 22-year-old Anthony Edwards knows what's at stake.
You gotta take advantage of it, man. You gotta come in ready to go every night. Can't leave nothing leave everything on the court. Leave nothing up for grabs. Give it your whole effort, all your energy. Because like you said, I don't know when I'll be back here. Mike Conley said he was here when he was like 24, so it's been a minute. So hopefully we make the most of it.
The T-Wolves will host the Mavs tonight at 7:30 at the Target Center, and Minnesota is favored by 4.5 points. Dallas Cowboys #1 wide receiver CeeDee Lamb did not show up for OTAs this week, and that was expected to happen. Drafted in 2020, Lamb is entering the 5th-year option and is set to make $17.99 million this season, but he wants a contract extension and he wants to be paid as one of the top receivers in the NFL. CeeDee led the league with 135 catches last season to go with 1,700 receiving yards and 12 touchdowns. Now, OTAs are not mandatory. Still, quarterback Dak Prescott was asked if he misses Lamb not being there.
Yes, I mean that's my guy. Not many more people out there, more swaggier, cooler, better player than that guy. So obviously you're gonna miss him, miss having him around. But I've been in this situation. It's business. Business is business. He's got my support and pretty much everybody in this locker room. I mean, I know locker room support, and so that's it's part of it. Hopefully he'll get all his and everything he deserves and is worth.
Defender Micah Parsons did not report for this round of OTAs as well, but he's working out on his own, and he has stopped by the Star. Head coach Mike McCarthy said Parsons hasn't missed anything as far as what's being installed.
Interesting. Those are two guys, though, you kind of want there when it starts getting mandatory.
Wish they were there right now. Yeah.
Thanks, Larry.
Still ahead here on the news at 6, the changes that are now in place after KSAT captured footage of a convicted sex offender standing in a city park. After the break, KSAT investigates why he was allowed to be there and what's being done to stop this from happening again.
A convicted sex offender escorted into a city park by sheriff's personnel during a search for a missing mother and her 3-year-old son.
After KSAT investigates, Dylan Collier asked how this could happen. BCSO made moves to tighten access at scenes.
Earlier this month, Bexar County Sheriff Javier Salazar provided a minute-by-minute timeline of the search for Savannah Krieger and her 3-year-old son, Caden.
At 3:19 p.m., Savannah's call history log shows another attempt to FaceTime her ex-husband.
A March 19th Amber Alert lasted just hours as mom and child were found dead in a drainage ditch at the back of Tom Slick Park. Investigators contend Krieger shot her son and then herself. Footage from that tragic scene included images of this man, 31-year-old Javier Lopez, seen unloading a vehicle near BCSO's mobile command unit and standing just feet away as family members wept in each other's arms. Lopez is a sex offender, convicted in 2021 of committing sex crimes on an unconscious man. Lopez was sentenced to 8 years probation in early 2022 in order to register as a sex offender for the rest of his life. He was then rearrested in the spring of last year, according to court records, after failing to comply with requirements of his community supervision and instructions for a sex offender treatment program. A judge last June allowed Lopez to stay out of prison and remain on probation.
Late last year, Lopez and another man, Xavier Gonzalez, filed paperwork with the county to do business as statewide emergency response team, a listed nonprofit that provides water, sports drinks, and even bathroom facilities for first responders at fires, standoffs, and searches. Records show the men withdrew the DBA less than a month later.
Gonzalez refiled DBA paperwork as sole owner of the group. That same day, Lopez filed a DBA under the name Fire Scene Rehab, which was already a subsidiary of this San Antonio First Responder Services group owned by someone else. Owner Bobby Briggs telling KSAT Lopez used to work there before Briggs let him go after Lopez tried to, quote, push himself on 4 minor volunteers. Active business records or not, statewide emergency response team remained in operation throughout the spring, posting photos on social media from a major accident, a shooting, and even from oyster bake. KSAT attempted to track down Lopez at the group's West Side business address. We found a yard full of equipment with the statewide emergency response team logo on it. As we gathered footage, a man walked up and said he could reach Lopez on the phone.
Hi, this is Dylan with KSAT 12. You were convicted of sexual assault. What are you doing at these scenes with law enforcement?
Lopez acknowledged being at the Krieger scene, but said his sex offender stipulations don't restrict him from being around children or at parks, since his crime wasn't committed against a child. Even though the state's registry itself does not ban sex offenders from city parks, a San Antonio city ordinance in place since 2014 does. It prohibits anyone on the sex offender registry from entering a city park or from being within 300 feet of one. A person violating the ordinance can be cited with a Class C misdemeanor. Lopez said he believes the agencies he provided rehab work for knew about his background and that he stopped his affiliation with statewide emergency response team a few weeks before our phone call took place. Reached for comment, the group's other listed owner, Gonzalez, told us he would like to formally sit down and discuss this matter. He then failed to do so before the deadline for this story, despite several follow-up emails from us. After KSAT asked the sheriff's office how Lopez got access to the Krieger search scene, a spokeswoman said statewide emergency response team arrived at the park unannounced and offered resources, but that they were restricted to the outer perimeter only. Quote, moving forward, all requests for assistance will be routed through BCSO dispatch and handled by the Bexar County Office of Emergency Management only. For KSAT Investigates, I'm Dylan Collier.
The Bexar County District Attorney's Office confirms it opposed Lopez getting deferred adjudication and instead asked to cap his punishment at 8 years in prison. The judge ultimately ordered Lopez to serve those 8 years on community supervision. Lopez denied taking part in any illegal activity involving minors while working for Briggs' first responder rehab group. He's not faced any criminal charges for entering Tom Slick Park. We'll be right back.
They don't have diplomas yet, but they're pilots. A drone program as students at South San High School flying fast and thinking big.
Tiffany Huerta shows us how fun with drones is preparing them for the future.
You have to check the drone, you have to check the controller, you have to check the environment.
There's a checklist these high school students must go through before flying this drone.
Did you ever think you were going to be flying drones in high school?
No, ma'am. I didn't think I was.
For months, South San High School students have been learning the basics about drones. Senior Jesus Munoz is one of the students that earned his drone pilot license and has big plans for the future.
Well, I want to have a little side job, a little side hustle, as you can say, because since I am going to the Navy, it's gonna be hard to have a set, like a footprint in some specific place. So I want to have a little website wherever I go to have something.
Munoz practices out here.
I ask you 3 questions like, are you qualified? And do you take full responsibility of what happened?
Capturing footage of the football team practicing. These students are in Michael Sorola's class.
We're so close to Port San Antonio and Lackland and stuff, and they see that all the day. But you know, that's other people that do that. That's the smart people, or I couldn't be an aircraft mechanic or a pilot or anything like that. Doing this and going through that whole process has opened their eyes to a lot of the different things they could do in aerospace.
Before teaching this course, Sorola also had to get his license. This commercial drone program was brought to the school by the D. Howard Foundation.
Well, the D. Howard Foundation's mission, quite frankly, has always been to help bring opportunities to our local youth for careers in aerospace, and not just today, but into the future.
Tyler Schrader, who is chairman of the D. Howard Foundation and works at Boeing, says this program is in 12 schools across 8 school districts.
As part of this program, not only are they earning a Part 107 license, which allows them to commercially operate a drone, which there's a whole list of benefits that come with that, including the ability to go commercially earn money while using that drone, but it also exposes them to a whole world of unmanned aerial systems and the regulation that comes with that.
With the drone industry booming, this program is providing many opportunities to local students.
It's a great experience to have. Something like this to know is also great to have, especially because more and more the world is becoming more technological and lots of things are advancing, and this kind of thing is revolutionary. To know something like this and expand your knowledge on different types of technologies, I feel like is amazing.
Tiffany Huertas, KSAT 12 News.
The careers are going to take off, I think.
I was waiting for a pun. Early voting for the primary runoff is now underway in Bexar County. Polls are open from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Early voting ends on Friday, and then Election Day is next Tuesday. Now, keep in mind, even if you did not vote in the March primary, you can still vote in the runoff. If you did vote in March, however, you must vote within the same political party.
Right now on KSAT.com, we have everything you need to know ahead of Election Day. You can find a sample ballot, candidate information, and polling locations. Just scan the QR code right there on your screen.
Look outside with live cam. If it's going to be so darn humid, it sure would be nice to see some rain, Adam.
Yeah, get some rain out of it at least.
Oh, man, and if we could generate a storm, imagine how heavy the rain would be with how much precipitable water is in the air right now. Anyway, let's talk about this evening. It's warm and sticky, very humid. 93 degrees by midnight, we're at 80, and tomorrow morning we start the day at 78. Slight chance of a few showers and storms into tonight. We're going to take a look at where we're most likely to see some action in just a bit.
All right, a lot of people ask me questions about the weekend and about the 100-degree temperatures, but I mean, it's hot and sweltering just getting to the weekend.
Yeah, for sure.
It is. And, the really high humidity is part of the deal here. It's bringing back flashbacks of last June when we had the highest heat index values on record around town. It's not that bad, but it's that very tropical air in place. Unfortunately, it's not making any storms for us. Take a look at Authority radar, the activity. Even in Uvalde County, that tapered off and couldn't sustain itself eastward anymore. And you look at the action off to the north, and it's closer to San Angelo. That's marching eastward, but some of that could build southward a little bit as well. Those 3 supercells have that classic crab claw shape to them right there. You see that? That radar signature kind of looks like little crab claws. Anyway, moving across the screen. That's where the action is. It's still very lit up near Killeen and Temple. You see that on the right-hand side of your screen. But the cold front, the boundary that's helping to generate this action, stretches all the way up toward Nashville and into Tennessee and Kentucky. And that cold front will continue to push southward and help to generate these showers and storms into tonight. It's just not going to make it here to San Antonio. We've got too much of a cap on our atmosphere to get anything generated on its own. It would take a cold front like this, and it's not a very strong cold front, not a big temperature difference, but it would take a front like that to help break through our cap to generate something. But without that front, I just don't think we can do it around here. Here's a look at our futurecast, and I think it does a pretty good job of illustrating what we can expect. Little bit of activity making its way into the northern hill country later this evening and into the early nighttime hours. Widely separated action with the chance of 1 or 2 strong to severe storms, but it's unlikely that's going to make it far south of Highway 290. 290 between Fredericksburg and Austin. I think that's going to be a rough cutoff point for even the remnants of the showers and storms. And as we go through the night, we'll still have some activity out there. And then tomorrow morning, with the boundary still stalled to the north of us, roughly from Ozona to Round Rock and Killeen, there could be a little bit of development along that boundary tomorrow morning, but that stays to the north of us. Tomorrow afternoon, we could have 1 or 2 pop-up showers and storms, but it would be highly isolated in nature. You see our futurecast indicating some of that activity possible out there tomorrow afternoon, but we give that a 10% chance. That's about it. So unfortunately, we're not looking at good rain chances going forward. 10% chance tomorrow, and I think even Friday, you could say 10% chance. Then 20% into next week, starting late on Memorial Day Monday, and for the remainder of the week with a little shift in our weather pattern and our upper level flow. Our lakes and rivers could use it. Look at the reservoir levels. Canyon Lake, almost 58% full, and that's 23 feet below the conservation pool. So we all know we could use the rain. This heat isn't helping either. 96 our high temperature today. That's 4 degrees shy of the record of 100. I think we'll be at triple digits by this weekend. 90s across the board. Okay, clearly we have a sensor issue in Helotes. It's not 64 degrees there. We all know better than that. But dew points well into the 70s, and that's part of the problem is that's really tropical air in place. These dewies are in the mid-70s, and that gives us the heat index of right now 105 in Poteet, 104 in San Antonio, 104 Castroville, and a few hours ago we had a heat index of 107, 108 around San Antonio, and with the high humidity through the weekend, anticipate the very similar conditions, but heat indices probably a few degrees higher. The heat index value is getting a little higher. So tomorrow, 78 in the morning, 97 in the afternoon, but we will be just above 100 along the Rio Grande. Bottom line, though, when you factor in the humidity, the high humidity, it's going to feel like it's above 100 across the board. Actually hitting 100 probably for the first time this year, this weekend. By Sunday, that would tie the record.
Kasky, when you mentioned crab claws, Steve and I were standing here doing crab claw robots.
There you go. I think of fishing. Because I'll catch fiddler crabs on the beach and then use them as bait.
Oh, okay.
Sheepshead love them.
It always goes back to fishing.
Everything comes back to fishing when it
darn
goes
right
to
it does.
That's right. Lego dinos in the buzz when we come back.
In the buzz, a professional Lego builder from Scotland has put together an amazing creation of dinosaurs. The exhibit is called Brick Dinos. The head of the museum says the display is a triple win for visitors with passions for dinosaurs, Legos, and building.
Like a brickosaurus. If you get close to some of the designs, a sudden dinosaur-like roar will greet you. The exhibit at the Museum of Science and Industry in Tampa. Brick Dinos will be on display through September 3rd. All right, a new airline is catering just to dogs and their owners. It's about to take off. Starting tomorrow, Bark Air will carry dogs of all sizes and their human companions on routes from New York, Los Angeles, and London. The airline said its goal is to offer an alternative to traditional air travel, which is often stressful for both dogs and owners.
The service has been pretty popular already, though, with 15,000 requests for new destinations. But this is not cheap. Listen to this. A one-way ticket for one dog and its owner costs $6,000 for domestic flights, $8,000 for international flights.
Yeah, those aren't really big airlines, I guess.
No.
Yeah.
That's a pricey trip.
Yeah.
Oof. We'll be right back.
Very hot and humid, summer-like temperatures. Keep in mind our average high in August is 97, and that's our warmest average high. It's going to feel like that with high humidity.
Thank you, Adam. And thank you for watching the news at 6.
See you on the Night Beat at 10.